Hi everybody, good morning. This is Dr. Lindsay Wilkinson. I'm a naturopathic doctor and an acupuncturist in Portland, Oregon, and I practice mostly integrative mental health with psychedelic harm reduction and ketamine-assisted therapy. And today for the blog post, I just want to talk a little bit about giving yourself permission when you're going into an altered state of consciousness with medicine or without medicine, to give yourself permission and have some tools to really open yourself up to allow whatever emotions that come up for you to really flow through. So I think the first and most important step that I've seen with patients is establishing a trusting relationship with your guide or facilitator. If you go into a journey space with someone that you trust, it automatically helps you remove some of that armor, some of that guarding, some of that fear and holding back that you might feel with someone that you're less familiar with. So I really do recommend finding a facilitator, a friend, a guide, really a trusted healthcare provider is my preference for most patients, that you can feel comfortable with and in your own skin, able to really open up and share the things that you're worried about, feel like you have a trusting relationship going into that altered state of consciousness. The second tip that I want to talk about is just really visualizing before you go into your space, removing that layer of armor or removing that mask that we so often put up front in front of other people. And even if it's someone that you trust, we still are wearing masks most of the time, hiding certain parts of ourselves that we feel ashamed of or that we feel will be rejected. Or that we don't like ultimately. And these are the places that often need the most healing and the most voice. They haven't had a voice in our consciousness. And so I really recommend visualizing, sitting down for a few minutes, meditating every day in the few days leading up to your journey or your altered state of consciousness work, where you imagine yourself letting go of those masks or taking off that armor so that you can really go into the journey and ask the medicine, ask the altered state of consciousness for help and healing support. The other thing that kind of goes along with that radical self-honesty and taking off of the armor and masks is just giving yourself permission to be honest with your facilitator before, during, and after. Practicing radical honesty is a brave and vulnerable act in and of itself. And so giving yourself permission to really state your fears out loud before going into that altered state work. And then really when that fear or that trepidation or that wanting to hide and retreat comes in during the journey, making sure you mention that and talk about that with your facilitator after a journey. I think my biggest recommendation is for the middle of your journey when you're really in an altered state and you're working with these parts of yourself that have maybe been suppressed or haven't had a voice. What you want to try to do, because they're so used to being in the background and your other parts, your mask parts are used to being in the driver's seat most of the time, is really allowing whatever vulnerable feelings to come up to be amplified. So if you find yourself in an altered state of consciousness and maybe you're shaking, maybe you're weeping, maybe you're laughing, whatever comes up for you, maybe you're yawning, giving yourself permission to open up to those feelings and expressions and make them bigger. Imagine yourself making those feelings as big as possible, filling up the whole room with those feelings. And the reason for that is that it allows you to really give voice to these parts that have been quiet and practice bringing them forward. And sometimes when we really bring them forward, we really create space and open ourselves to those other parts, those hidden parts or shadow parts. They will reveal to us the healing that needs to happen underneath. And so by amplifying that shaking, making it bigger and bigger and bigger, you will allow a full release of whatever has been stored up in the body, as well as gain insight, wisdom, and clarity around what those voices are asking for and how to fully integrate them. And then, of course, my very last tip for this work is making sure that whatever comes up for you, you make the time and space to do the integration work afterward with your facilitator, with your trusted friend or your healthcare provider. And so it doesn't do most people any good to feel those feelings and feel them in a big way and amplify them and then shut them right back down, put the mask back on, and then go on with your day-to-day life. When we allow those things to come up in an altered state of consciousness, really working with it in the integration phase and finding out, going deeper and deeper, coming back to those feelings over and over again with someone, with a facilitator who's witnessing and helping you through that process is really invaluable to your healing work over time. So that's my blog post for today. If you're interested in learning more, please check out my website. It's www.aureo, which is AUREO, PDX for Portland.com. So www.aureopdx.com. Check me out. I have lots of great blog posts and resources and information for psychedelic harm reduction, ketamine-assisted therapy, and altered states work. So thank you so much for watching.